In the dark days of World War II, when armies fought across jungles, deserts, and oceans, a revolutionary machine quietly changed the future of warfare forever. It did not roar like a fighter plane or thunder like a tank. Instead, it hovered. It rose straight into the sky, and for the first time in military history, it gave humanity the power of true vertical flight. That machine was the Sikorsky R-4, the world's first mass-produced military helicopter. Designed by the brilliant aviation pioneer Igor Sikorsky, the R-4 looked fragile compared to the giant bombers of the era. Its thin tail boom, exposed framework, and spinning rotor blades made it appear almost experimental. But beneath its simple appearance was one of the most important inventions of the 20th century. Before helicopters, rescuing wounded soldiers from remote battlefields was often impossible. Pilots needed long runways, and many injured men died waiting for help. Dense jungles, mountains, and flooded terrain trapped troops with no escape. The Sikorsky R-4 changed everything. Development began in the early 1940s, when Igor Sikorsky continued pursuing his dream of practical helicopters. Many experts believed helicopters were unstable and useless for war. But Sikorsky refused to give up. After years of experimentation, he developed the VS-300 prototype, which became the foundation for the R-4. In 1942, the helicopter achieved a major breakthrough. The United States Army Air Forces recognized its potential and ordered production. Soon, the aircraft officially entered military service under the designation R-4. Powered by a Warner radial engine producing around 200 horsepower, the helicopter was not fast. Its top speed barely reached around 75 miles per hour. The cockpit carried only a pilot and one passenger. Yet what made it extraordinary was not speed or firepower. It could hover. It could land almost anywhere. And it could save lives where no airplane could reach. The helicopter's main rotor lifted the aircraft vertically into the air, while a small tail rotor prevented the fuselage from spinning uncontrollably. Today, this design seems normal. But during World War II, it was revolutionary technology. American military commanders quickly realized the R-4 could perform missions no other aircraft in existence could handle. Its greatest impact came in rescue operations. In the jungles of Burma during 1944, Allied forces faced impossible terrain. Thick forests, mountains, and muddy ground made evacuation nearly impossible. Wounded soldiers often remained trapped for days. Then came the helicopter. One of the most famous missions occurred when Lieutenant Carter Harmon flew an R-4 deep into dangerous jungle territory to rescue wounded soldiers behind enemy lines. The area was too small for conventional aircraft to land. But the tiny helicopter descended carefully through the trees and evacuated survivors one at a time. The mission became one of the first successful combat rescue operations in helicopter history. For the soldiers on the ground, the sound of the spinning rotor blades meant hope. The Sikorsky R-4 also proved valuable for reconnaissance, transport, and communication duties. Military leaders realized helicopters could bypass destroyed roads, rivers, and rough terrain entirely. This concept would later transform warfare across the world. However, flying the R-4 was not easy. The helicopter demanded constant control input from the pilot. Early rotor systems were unstable, vibrations were severe, and mechanical failures were common. Pilots described the aircraft as difficult and exhausting to fly. Every second required concentration. Unlike modern helicopters equipped with advanced stabilization systems, the R-4 relied almost entirely on pilot skill. Even small mistakes could become deadly. The open cockpit also exposed crews to heat, rain, wind, and enemy fire. Yet despite these dangers, pilots continued flying because they understood the helicopter's importance. Every successful mission proved helicopters belonged on the battlefield. The U.S. Army Air Forces, U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, and even the British Royal Air Force operated versions of the R-4 during the war. In total, more than 100 helicopters were built, a small number compared to fighters or bombers, but enough to begin a new era in aviation. The British called their version the hoverfly, and everywhere it flew, people stared in amazement. For civilians and soldiers alike, the sight of an aircraft rising vertically without a runway seemed almost impossible. Newspapers described helicopters as futuristic flying machines. Many believed they represented the future of aviation itself, and they were right. Although the Sikorsky R-4 arrived too late and in too few numbers to dramatically change World War II, it laid the foundation for every military helicopter that followed. Without the R-4, there would be no rescue helicopters pulling wounded troops from Korea or Vietnam, no airborne medical evacuations, no modern search and rescue operations, no attack helicopters dominating battlefields decades later. The DNA of nearly every helicopter in the modern world can be traced back to Sikorsky's pioneering design. Igor Sikorsky himself understood the deeper purpose of helicopters. He believed their greatest value was not destruction, but saving human lives. That belief became reality in Burma, where helicopters rescued stranded soldiers from places previously considered unreachable. For many wounded men, the strange little helicopter arriving through the jungle was nothing short of a miracle. By the end of World War II, helicopter technology advanced rapidly. New designs became larger, faster, and more reliable. But historians still remember the Sikorsky R-4 as the machine that proved helicopters could work in real combat conditions. It was the first true military helicopter, the first to perform combat rescues, the first to show the world what vertical flight could achieve. Today, modern helicopters carry missiles, radar systems, armored protection, and advanced electronics. Some can transport entire squads of soldiers or fly through storms at night. Yet all of them owe a debt to the fragile little aircraft that first lifted into the skies during World War II. The Sikorsky R-4 did not win the war, but it changed the future forever. And in the history of aviation, that makes it one of the most important aircraft ever built.